All right, who dey?
Who that?
You there, Mikey?
Yeah.
Mikey. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. You just completely went silent. Okay.
Oh.
Well, anyway, you got half the intro. Okay, there's the other half. All right. So today, I bet you can't guess what we're talking about. It's biggest draft steals, as you can tell. But I mean, obviously, like things in the draft, like obviously, there's the whole thing with Shadur Sanders. Like, obviously, things didn't go the way that we thought they were going to go in a lot of cases, and I guess in other cases they did. But the biggest question is who's going to end up just like really just surprising everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, if y'all got any ideas, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll put you up on the screen here. But Mikey, why don't you go ahead and tell me who you think just like hold on one sec. Sorry, I had to switch the screen for a second. Mikey, why don't you go ahead and tell me who you think out of all the teams, who got the biggest steal in the draft?
The biggest steal in the draft. So I was thinking about this actually the other day, and I was thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie. I really, really, really like the Eagles' sixth round pick. One of them at least.
Who's
And that would be Antoine Powell Ryland.
okay?
Because like I thought he was going to go in at least like maybe the third or the fourth round, but he fell all the way to pick 209. And like the thing is, like with this pre-draft analyst over here, it says Powell Ryland shoots his hands and drives tackles. So basically, that man, right? He finishes, okay. And the biggest problem, my biggest pet peeve when it comes to football, is guys that can't tackle worth anything. So that really put him up to the number one charge for me. And also, he can get off blocks at the top of the rush. He's really an all-around pass rusher for me, man. Like, he can time the snap. He can rip under the outside shoulder and bends inside as a speed rusher. Yeah, I just really value him. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that might be the biggest steal of the draft. And of course, he went to the freaking Eagles. So
Yeah, sometimes when guys can't tackle, they get drafted number 17 overall.
Rest in peace, or rest in pain, I guess.
Rest in my life as a Bengals fan is just pain constantly. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
I kind of like, oddly enough, I actually a guy who I have as a big steal for me is the Eagles' other sixth round pick.
Okay.
The tackle from Texas, Cameron Williams. He I had him as a top 100 guy, but they got him at pick 207. Like that guy for what Philadelphia does, zone blocking. I really honestly think that he could be the next Lane Johnson there. The difference is they got Lane Johnson in the first round. Like that's just phenomenal. It's Philadelphia, man. Like that's part of the reason they're so good every year. Even though they've only won one Super Bowl so far, but they're always in the mix because their drafting has just been off the chart lately.
Yeah, but they got two of them Super Bowls.
Well, okay, I'm not counting the Nick Foles Super Bowl. That's not part of this current incarnation. No, that was like 9 years ago. Is my point. I'm not counting that as part of their current. What?
The Jets still have a Super Bowl.
Okay, but I was talking about how the Eagles have been drafting lately. It has nothing to do with the Super Bowl they won in 2016.
2017, but yeah, okay, yeah, I understand that.
Whatever. Okay. Anyway, another guy who I think actually is a little underrated, at least as far as where he went in the draft, and I know what you're gonna say. I know
I
you're.
swear to God.
I can already hear you.
I can already hear you too.
Okay, it's not Jalen Milrow, first of all.
Okay.
In case you were worried, I was going to say Jalen Milrow, but it's another guy who you've said you didn't like, and I think I didn't like. I mean, I'm not super high on him, but like he went at pick number 172, and I mean, I thought he was at least a fourth round talent. But it's Chris Paul Jr. Like he went really late for how like he's a talented guy. Like I know it's like part of his thing is like his name recognition with his dad, but I think he's got a lot of upside, and the Rams got him really late.
Can't wait to betray. I can't wait for him to betray the Rams fans just like Chris Paul did.
Okay. I mean, I know you don't like Chris Paul, to be fair, but that doesn't mean that his son is a bad football player.
Hopefully, the apple fell far from the tree.
Who would be your next biggest steal? Like, let's go with a guy in like the earlier rounds, but like obviously not the biggest steal of all time if they're going in the early rounds. But like, let's say a guy who you thought maybe was going to go in the first round who didn't, but should have.
So like in like day 2 or like.
Well, at any point, really.
All right. Well, a guy that I was shocked. In fact, let me see if I can find him. I forgot what round he went in, but I definitely know I was shocked. Where's he at? Here we go. Does the 4th round count?
Yeah, sure. I mean, wherever you want. I was thinking earlier than that, but if you want to go with the 4th round guy, we'll go with the 4th round guy.
Bro, how the heck was Malachi Moore on the board at pick 130?
I mean, I'll be honest. Like that's about where I had him on my board.
No, I had him like at least a late first guy. Like,
no, I don't think so.
But like,
I mean, you're allowed to have your opinion, even if it's wrong.
But I'm actually gonna go with the guy though that in the 2nd round. Wait, hold on. Let me see this real quick. Let me get to the 2nd round. Yeah, that was like one of my like honorable mentions, guys, because it was like I was kind of shocked. But in the 2nd round, bro, hold on, let me pull this up first. Okay, all right. Now, at pick, where's he at? All right. Hold on. Donovan Izaraku to Dallas. I had like mixed feelings about Donovan, but like seeing him go to Dallas at pick 44, it was like.
No, I totally agree. I had Izaraku going like in the late 20s, so to see him drop all the way to 44 was pretty. Like I'm like the Cowboys really early in the draft. The Cowboys had some interesting moves, but that was a really good one.
Yeah, it's like
now their first round pick was a huge reach. So
yeah, well, I could have actually seen the Cowboys drafting him at 12. But
yeah,
they got him in the 2nd round, and like I was watching and I was like, bro, honestly, I kind of wanted the Saints to get him in the 2nd round.
Well, it's funny actually. If the Saints had taken who was it that they actually got at 12? I forget his name.
Well, we got him who the
Cowboys, yeah.
They got
Tyler Booker. That's it. If they had gotten Tyler Booker in the 2nd round and Izaraku at 12, that would have been a normal draft. So they ended up kind of canceling themselves out to have a fine set of selections. Oddly enough.
Yeah, man. I feel like the Cowboys, they got some good rookies that can help them lose in the first round of the playoffs if they make it there.
Well, they ain't gonna do that with Dak Prescott playing quarterback at this point.
You're right.
But speaking of guys named Malachi, though, if a guy can be a steal in the first round, I'm gonna say the Ravens getting Malachi Starks at 27 I mean, you remember when we were like doing the draft live, and when the Ravens got him, I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I'm going to the
Like
Bengals.
like it kind of reminds me of like when they got like Kyle Hamilton really late in the draft a few years ago. That's what Malachi Starks reminds me of.
Yeah, I think he was a late first round pick as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like they both fell, and Kyle Hamilton ended up being a pretty damn good player for the Ravens. So
Yeah.
him and Malachi Starks back there. I'm not looking forward to playing them twice a year. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But then again, we got Joe Burrow, so you're still gonna lose.
Yeah, y'all be alright. Y'all be alright.
Yeah. Now, if our defense can do literally anything, but you know what? They say Shamar Stewart is a good run stopper, so maybe he can stop Lamar Jackson. You never know. The guy he's replacing did the fumble in the jungle against the Ravens, so there's that.
No,
now that was Tyler Huntley, not Lamar Jackson, but
yeah, ain't nobody stopping Lamar Jackson.
Well, see, here's the thing, like Lou Anarumo, part of how he kind of got to the point where he was considered one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL is he figured out how to stop Lamar Jackson, and then he just like stopped doing it. Like he figured out the formula and then just stopped actually doing it. It was the most frustrating thing in the world. Like Lou Anarumo at one time ended up being a pretty good defensive coordinator for us, and then he just completely like went all the way ass backwards the other direction. Like he reverted right back to his old ways, and it was just like, are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
That's why Lou Anarumo got fired.
Absolutely.
Because he regressed all the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you on that.
I also
the Saints have to fire guys over.
Why the hell did the NFL let Jihad Campbell fall all the way to the freaking Eagles at 31?
I was about to. He was my next guy.
Like, can we stop letting the Eagles just like luck into these guys?
Yeah, I mean,
like how they got Jalen Carter a few years ago.
Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean, Jalen Carter.
In fact, hold on. Let's pull up. Well, the thing is, hold on. The Eagles. What the problem is with the Eagles is that every team that always drafts ahead of them, they always like. For example, with the Seahawks, remember they had the 5th pick, and everybody thought, "Oh, Jalen Carter should already book his ticket to Seattle."
Mm-hmm.
Well, they took Devon Witherspoon because the thing is, like Witherspoon was a good fit for Seattle, but it's like Jalen Carter is one of those guys. I understand he had like his like car incident, like like he was like I think maybe killed somebody in the car. Like don't kill me, that's not accurate, but he did something that off season. But bro, like hold on. By the way, the Saints do take responsibility for the Eagles taking Jalen Carter. That was our bad. Sorry. But we got Chris Olave out of it, but I apologize to anybody and everybody. But in fact, let me pull up, bro. I want you to see how late these guys are picked. It's not like the Eagles have like a top 10 pick every year. I mean, they took Carter the top 10 pick, but that's once again our bad. But if you hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. It's crazy to see this. All right, so let's see. They got Jahad Campbell with the 31st pick. Last year, they got Quinyon Mitchell at pick 22 when I had him as the top 20 guy. The year before that, well, also they took Cooper DeJean in the 2nd round, who I thought was going in the 1st round. The year before that, not only do they get Jalen Carter in the top 10, but then they get Nolan Smith at number 30. The year before that, Jordan Davis at pick 13. They got Cam Jurgens at pick 51, and then Nakobe Dean the round after that. What do they do the year before that though? Trade up, get Devontae Smith. They got Landon Dickerson in the 2nd round and Milton Williams in the 3rd. What is going on? They drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round. Like, what is going on?
What's going on? What's going on is they figured it out in Philadelphia. I mean, that's the reason that they're the sitting Super Bowl champions is almost entirely because they are so good at drafting. Like, you know, don't let anybody tell you that drafting isn't, free agency is the thing that matters. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the Rams did it a few years ago, right? By basically saying, screw the draft, we're going to build through free agency. But the Eagles are proof that you can't just do that. Like if you really knock it out of the park in the draft, then, you're going to get pretty damn good results.
Yeah.
Wish
It's like crazy.
I wish Duke Tobin would take a few notes from that book, but
I think Loomis would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Big Loomis can't draft to save his life. We got Peyton Turner in the first round.
Another guy who is going to be an absolutely massive steal in this draft is Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker out of South Carolina. You know why, Mikey?
Why?
Because I need to feel good about something. Our draft was so bad. Like, honestly, the more I analyze this draft for the Bengals, the more I just like they're like when we did our power rankings, the more the Bengals are just tumbling down my power rankings. Like, oh my god, this was such a bad draft for us. Like, there were so many opportunities to take care of so many things. And it's like, don't get me wrong, these guys could work out, dude. Like, Demetrius Knight could be a really good linebacker for us. Like, if Shamar Stewart actually lives up to his potential, and also, like, we get things figured out with Trey Hendrickson, that could work. Dylan Fairchild, I don't really know why we took him in the third friggin' round, but, like, yeah, that could work. He was teammates with Amarius Mims, and maybe he could play next to Amarius Mims, and they could like form this like awesome tandem. You never know, but like, good God, are we taking a lot of risks for no reason? God damn.
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of teams, man. Like, they always go for the risk instead of the proven talent. That's why we got Payne Turner in the first round.
I mean, like, some of these guys have proven talent. I just not necessarily worth taking at the positions that we took, and also not like if this is the whole haul we got in the draft, especially considering what we did in free agency. Like, the Bengals kept talking all offseason about like, oh, we don't want to pay the same amount of money for the same team, but like right now it feels like we're paying less money for a worse version of the team that we put out last year. And if we re-sign Trey Hendrickson, then yeah, we're paying more money for the same team, but that's better than what we're doing right now. Like, what we're doing right now is it feels like we're setting ourselves up for a rough 2025. So to bring it back to the subject of this video, the Bengals are not on this list at all. The biggest draft steals, absolutely fucking not. Maybe one day, maybe I hope so badly. Shamar Stewart. If you ever watch this, which you won't, but if you ever watch this, Shamar Stewart, I'm rooting for you. I really am. You're a Bengal, and I want you to succeed. But God, I just don't understand the logic on these picks, man. I none of them. It's like some of them I'm like, I kind of like, Demetrius Knight, okay, I can, if that works out, okay, maybe. Dylan Fairchild, okay, maybe if that works out. Barrett Carter, I can see, I really don't get Jalen Rivers and Taj Brooks, but that's the 5th and 6th round picks or whatever. But like, dude, they had 6 picks. Like, you just gotta be better at drafting if you're only gonna have 6 picks.
We had 9 picks, and yet we still underwhelmed somehow.
I don't know. Same. But back to the subject of the video. I'm going to say something that is a bit of a hot take right now, but also probably not a very big hot take in the grand scheme of things. But as far as like,
best running back of all time, I agree.
What?
Devin Neal's the best running back of all time. I agree.
No, that's not what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, yeah. So like in the grand scheme, it's not a big crazy thing to say, but as far as the narrative going on right now, it's a big shock to say. But I think that Shedeur Sanders could end up being a pretty big steal. And I know it's like, oh yeah, the guy who could have gone first overall got him in the fifth round. Yeah, what a big steal. Of course that's a big steal. But at the same time, just because of the narrative around him lately, and like the reason he fell to the fifth round is because people are like, oh, that guy's an absolute fucking shit show. Like, I don't know I don't know what Shedeur Sanders is like, but if he's as talented as he is and is able to put up the kind of numbers he put up behind Colorado's offensive line, I don't know how bad his personality is, but it couldn't be so bad that he fell to the fifth round. I think honestly, people are like, I think it's like he's got a famous dad and a dad with a very strong personality, and I think that that's part of it. Like people are like judging Shador with a fine tooth comb more than they would other prospects because he's got such a famous dad, because he's got such a big star on his shoulder. Um, and it could end up being right. He could end up flaming out. But I mean, you don't get to be that successful in college. Um, Again, based off of what he had around him, you don't get to the level of success that he had while being that much of a shit show of like a potential prospect. Like I don't know. We'll have to see. But if it does what I think it could do, like the fall in the draft, if it does what I think it could do and just piss him right the fuck off, then that's gonna be a very good thing for the Browns and a very bad thing for the rest of the league. Luckily for me, the Browns are complete morons, and so they'll probably screw Shador up for like 4 years, and then in probably actually maybe even less because he was a fifth round pick. So they'll screw Shador up for like a year or two, and then he'll go sign with another team in like a year or two, and then he'll be really good with them.
Yeah, I agree. But like, I feel like Shador Sanders, like, I don't think he did anything. Like, people are now making memes about it, saying how he was telling all the teams in the interviews that they suck and they need to draft him. I don't think he was like that because if you know, he was live streaming the draft, so he gets his reaction for when he gets picked. And the entire time, even in the fourth round, he was staying positive, man. So if he was this big jacklet, I don't think he would have. I think you would have saw some anger come out of him. But Shador stayed positive through the entire process. So I don't think. And plus, the Browns said that they tried so hard to move up to trade up for him in the fifth round. They wouldn't have cared to trade up for him if they didn't. If they really truly hated him as a person. So like, I don't agree with the narrative. I think you're innocent until proven guilty in this case.
Well, here's the thing. I think the Browns had their eye on Shador the whole time. It's like I predicted that the Browns would take him with the number 2 overall pick. If you recall, like when we did our draft, I predicted the Browns would take him with the number 2 overall pick. I think the Browns wanted him the whole time, and I think they would have taken him with the number 2 overall pick, but they kind of lucked out by the fact that like all the other GMs in the NFL were just like, God, this guy sucks. And then they read the tea leaves and they're like, okay, well this guy's gonna fall in the draft, so we don't have to take him with the number 2 pick. And they just kept they kept letting him go and letting him go. And I think by the fifth round, they're probably thinking, okay, somebody's gonna take a flyer on him at this point, and they might have even like, had somebody like the part of the reason they traded up, they might have heard that somebody was planning on taking him. So they figured they had to, actually take some action at that point. But I think it's quite possible that the reason that the Browns like took him in the fifth round is because they would have taken him in any round, but they felt like they didn't need to take him until the fifth round because of all of the stuff that came out about him.
Yeah, and also people were saying how when the Browns drafted him, they weren't showing no emotion. Bro, they did that when they drafted Mason Graham. They did that when they drafted Carson. They did that when they drafted Junkins. The Browns had the same reaction. Like, they had the reaction like if a not funny joke was told. They're just like, that's all they did the entire draft. So I don't really buy any of that stock. I don't think Shador has anything to worry about. My prediction is that they're going to start Dylan Gabriel because they drafted him. I would start Shador, but knowing the Browns, they're going to start the worst quarterback that they drafted. because he drafted him in like the third round or whatever. So,
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to. Well, I don't know. They might start Gabriel, but I don't know. I just obviously
Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Shador Sanders are your other options.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I think they genuinely might start Joe Flacco.
I don't. I think they just brought in Flacco to mentor the guys. I think his insanity runs are over.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they think he's gonna like that the magic's gonna be there. I think that they're gonna have Joe Flacco start because, frankly, I don't think that Dylan Gabriel is gonna be ready. I don't think that Dylan Gabriel is all that good in the first place, to be honest with you. And then I like Shador may or may not be ready, but they like just because he was a fifth round pick and they feel they can be a little bit more loose with that, they might start Joe Flacco to try to like light a fire in Shador and be like, hey, you want the starting job? Well, you better go beat this guy out for it. But like I don't know, Dylan Gabriel, just like I'm getting like DTR vibes from Dylan Gabriel. Like I just don't think he's gonna be any good at all. I think he's going to be another one of those like long line of Browns quarterbacks who are just like completely irrelevant and don't do a damn thing. Which is funny because I was talking to Thomas about his reaction to the Browns draft, and Thomas was furious over the Shador pick. Like he was just absolutely completely beside himself about the Shador
Why?
pick.
What Shador do to him?
Thomas, but like, which is funny because leading up to the draft, Thomas was very much like, yeah, we're gonna go get Shador. Now I think he wanted Cam Ward, but he also knew that wasn't really realistic. So he's like, well, we're gonna go get Shador, and it was gonna be, Thomas was kind of up and down on Shador. Some days it was okay, some days it wasn't. But like he was kind of on board until near the draft. And he just like he literally just texted me at one point like when Shador was falling, and like in the first round, and the Browns had passed up on him, and he was just like, yeah, fuck Shador. I'm like, oh damn, you really don't like the guy. And then a couple days later, when they drafted him in the fifth round, he texted me and he said, I hate being a Browns fan.
Well,
so
at least you didn't draft Payne Turner in the first round.
Yeah, well, they've drafted worse than Peyton Turner in the first round before, though. They've had some pretty horrendous busts. They drafted Johnny Manziel, bro.
Well, good for them.
That's worse than Peyton Turner by like a million.
Okay, bro.
It is.
See, no, it's worse. No, it's actually worse because this time we're talking about my team.
Okay, all right. Okay. Well, then why don't I ask Thomas the same question?
Well, he's going to say that the Browns picking Johnny Manziel is worse because that's his team.
I know, that's my point.
But you see, Payne Turner is also my team.
Yeah, well, Achilles Smith's worse than all of them.
Well, that's their team.
Because you guys were going to give us 9 draft picks, and we were like, no, Achilles Smith, that's who we want.
Maybe he likes Cincinnati.
Who? Achilles Smith?
Both.
Achilles Smith despises Cincinnati. Like he's got nothing nice to say about us these days.
Well, I imagine every single quarterback that you run out of town ain't happy with y'all.
Well, I mean, Andy Dalton seems to be fine.
Well, yeah, that's
we
because Andy Dalton.
We didn't exactly run him out of town, but like I mean, he definitely wasn't terribly happy when he left. Like he felt like
he was forced.
Well, he was kind of forced out, and the Bengals also didn't really communicate with him what was happening, so he was kind of annoyed about it. But I mean, he didn't do the Carson Palmer thing and just talk shit afterwards. But like Achilles Smith's different. Achilles Smith was a complete fucking moron who like think Jamarcus Russell. That was Achilles Smith, except Jamarcus Russell had more hype, I guess. But Achilles Smith was just as bad and had just as piss poor work ethic. And I would argue was probably a bigger bust because we could have gotten 9 draft picks, as you know, out of him, and we just turned that down for no goddamn reason. Like, I have argued before that Akili Smith was a bigger bust than Ryan Leaf. Now, is that true? I don't know. Probably not. But then again, Jamarcus Russell was a pretty big bust. That's kind of like those are the big three of NFL busts. Well, I'd say Johnny Manziel, but Johnny Manziel was a later first round pick. But like the big three of NFL busts to me is Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf, and Akili Smith.
Where did Josh Rosen fall on that list?
Josh Rosen's interesting. So like Josh Rosen didn't fail because he was just a complete fucking moron.
I feel like he's a bigger bust because of the comment he made and just came back to bite him.
Well, that's not part of him being a bust. That's part of him being I think that's part of the narrative for sure, but that's not part of him being a bust because that comment that he made didn't affect the Cardinals at all. It made him look look a little crazier.
If he would have sucked anyway without making the comment, it's like, yeah, he's a bust. But people would have not gave Josh Rosen a top 10 bust treatment if he would have just come. Because like when you say that there's 9 mistakes made ahead of you, then you have to show up day in and day out. And that's not what he did. He got traded after a year. So like that, if he never makes that comment, he's still a bust, but he's not as big of a bust as he would have been if he just.
But I'll be honest with you. I think Rosen kind of got a raw deal, to be completely honest with you. Now, granted, he had an opportunity to do something with the Dolphins, and he completely didn't do shit. But like the reason he got traded after a year from the Cardinals is because the Cardinals just completely overhauled everything they were doing after a year. Didn't have anything to do. Maybe it had a little bit to do with Rosen not having a good rookie year, but for the most part, it had to do with the fact that they just wanted to, completely turn over the apple cart, go get Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. Like that was the whole reason they did that whole thing, and it wasn't really about Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen got the short end of the stick there, and I'm not saying he wasn't a bust, because like very much in a way he was, because like the Cardinals just completely about faced afterwards. But it wasn't as much his fault as like Akili Smith and Ryan Leaf and Jamarcus Russell. All three of those guys, they were it was 100% their fault how big of busts they were. Now Akili Smith will tell you otherwise, and to be fair, Akili Smith definitely, had he not been such a horrendous bust, he definitely would not have been very well supported here in Cincinnati because our team building at the time was absolutely horrendous. But he was so bad that didn't matter.
Yeah. Someone asked a question in the chat.
Yeah, is Patrick Willis a top 10 linebacker of all time? No. Great linebacker. Definitely a top 10 linebacker of his era. A top 3 linebacker of his era. He's a phenomenal linebacker, but top 10 all time.
Like if you look at the guys, here's who I'm taking ahead of him: Ray Lewis,
easily.
Derek Thomas, Dick Butkus, Lawrence Taylor, Luke Kuechly. Even yes, I'm taking him. I don't care how short he played. Bobby Wagner. Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Ricky Jackson, and I'm also taking Junior Seau. I think that's who his name.
Seau, yeah. Seau was phenomenal. You also there's guys who played, much longer ago than that. Ted Hendricks from the Raiders. That guy was phenomenal.
Yeah. He's even
that guy I hate. I forget his Jack something. Jack Ham Lambert? Might be from the.
Oh, Jack Ham. Yeah, Jack Ham.
Which one was the one who played for the Steelers?
From the picture, it looks like Jack Ham. Hold on, let me just see.
Jack Ham.
Yeah.
Jack Lambert was really good too. Because one of them played for the Raiders, one of them played for the Steelers. Both were great, and both are probably better than Patrick Willis, to be honest.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Patrick Willis is probably at least maybe top 15 to top 20 linebackers all time. But top 10. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm just gonna completely dismiss it. Like he definitely has like a case, but
I'll
like
dismiss it.
I
I'll
don't
dismiss
think.
it.
Well, I don't think he has like the. Yeah, I can play for the Steelers, but like,
Kevin
I don't
Green.
think he. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. I think maybe
Mike
top
Singletary. Like,
20.
come on.
Yeah, he's maybe top 20, maybe even top 25 to be honest with you. But like top 10 is kind of insane.
One guy who I would put above Patrick Willis, who played at the same time as Patrick Willis. Now, okay, one guy who I would put above Patrick Willis overall all time, above Patrick Willis, who played at the same time as Patrick Willis. Although to be fair, during Patrick Willis's entire career, this was not like he was a better linebacker than this guy, but was Brian Urlacher. Now, Brian Urlacher was near the end of his career when Patrick Willis was playing, and so obviously Patrick Willis was a better linebacker than Brian Urlacher at the time. But overall for his career, Brian Urlacher was a better linebacker than Patrick Willis. And Patrick Willis was very, very good, don't get me wrong, but top 10 all time, no.
It was Willis the guy that amputated his fingers so he can play football? Was that him?
That sound. I don't. That sound. It's not. I feel like I remember him doing something like that, but I don't think that specifically was him. But maybe it was. I don't know.
Well,
By the way,
he has like a top 10 heart, but not top 10 skill. I'm sorry.
yeah. So Jack Ham and Jack Lambert both played for the Steelers. I don't know what I'm thinking. But yeah, I do think though it was Jack Ham who was basically Vontez Burfict before Vontez Burfict, but he played at a time where you were actually allowed to play that way. So you know, no, like everybody's like, oh yeah, Jack Ham is this example of the Steelers being this amazing, respectable organization. But Vontez Burfict does the same shit, and everybody loses their goddamn minds. And I get the NFL, like it was against, you know, the NFL was more about not doing that by the time Vontez Burfict came around. But people act like it's a freaking moral thing, and it's like if it's a moral thing, then stop like, you know, putting like guys like Jack Ham on a goddamn pedestal.
Yeah, some guys are just not meant to be football players.
There's a reason why I hate the Steelers as much as I do. And it's not just because they're a rival. It's not just because they beat my team in the playoffs twice in very traumatic ways for me. Although that helps. But a big reason I hate the Steelers is because there's just this stupid fucking double standard for them. And like people act like they're a model organization in the NFL, and they're really not. Like, yeah, they went on a big run in the 70s, and like a bunch of people today are fans because of that run in the 70s. But like, oh my fucking god, like they get away with goddamn everything, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, that's literally like almost the same exact way. Because like my way, like from my hatred with Atlanta is way different than my hatred with Tampa. Yeah, there was a time where I was annoyed with Tampa more than I was with Atlanta. That's because Atlanta's always been dookie, and they always will be dookie. But it got to the point where I got annoyed with Tampa because, you know, if Tampa Bay was not in the Saints division, I'd actually root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win games. I would. If they weren't in the Saints division. If the Panthers weren't in the Saints division, I would root for them. But if Atlanta went to like the AFC West or something, or the AFC East, I probably would still want them to lose because of how selfish their fans are, because of how like mean and rude and crap. Like when we had Hurricane Katrina, you got Falcon fans throwing rocks at our stadium when it's already getting destroyed.
Yeah,
or it was either when it was destroyed or when it was getting built. One or the other.
That's exactly how I feel about Steelers fans. But I will say that the difference there, though, is like nobody's holding up the Atlanta Falcons as a model organization for the NFL. Like, people do that for the fucking Steelers all the time. And lately, to be fair, they've kind of become more of a meme because Mike Tomlin's kind of got them in this perpetual, like, cycle of mediocrity where they're there, but they're kind of, like, irrelevant most of the time. And when they are relevant, it's usually because of drama and stuff like that, which is hilarious to me. That's become what their legacy is right now to the current generation of NFL fans. But for most of my life, people have held the Steelers up as like the model organization of the NFL. And it's entirely because they went on a fucking run in the 70s, which, by the way, there's evidence that, you know, there was a lot of, you know, maybe not so, I was trying to think of a creative way to say it, but there's evidence that they were cheating and using steroids and shit. So, like, God, I hate the way people put the Steelers up on a goddamn pedestal. And again, I know it's not so much, it doesn't happen like these days because the Steelers have kind of like become a bit of a meme, which is hilarious, and I like that. But the foundation of my NFL fandom was born out of when the Steelers were considered a model organization. So, and they still get that special treatment from the NFL. Like you see, they're constantly getting away with bullshit, kind of like the Chiefs do. The difference is the Chiefs are at least capitalizing on the shit.
Yeah, I feel you. It's like sometimes it's like when you live in a household and like your parents like favor a child more because like they bring something to like this is like let's say they're good at like something that brings in money, whether that's football or whether that's like a job, that may get some favoritism. That's what some teams do. Like whatever makes the NFL money,
Yeah,
Roger
but
Goodell and
that's the
the
thing.
NFL
Like it had been years since the well, okay, never mind. I was gonna say it had been years since the Steelers had brought in money like that, but it wasn't true because the Steelers dynasty in the '70s did legitimately have like long lasting effects, and they were like their fans were still bringing in tons of money, just because like like by the time by like the 2000s, it was the children of the Steelers fans from the '70s who were just like I mean the Steelers had a reputation and I think still do of being a fan base that travels incredibly well and like they will if you go to a Chargers game or something like that, if they're hosting the Steelers, it'll look like a Steelers fucking home game even though like that's completely across the other side of the country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand how you feel because some teams, like some teams, for example, I know it was a big thing with like the Well, I know this is a different sport, but I remember when the Pelicans played the Thunder in the playoffs in the first round. The Pelicans had a home playoff game, and I guarantee you there was probably 90% Thunder fans at that game.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, multiple OKC shirts, and I probably maybe saw two Pelican fans inside the entire crowd.
Yeah. All right. Some people say he's not that good because he had Travis Hunter. Well,
Ooh,
I
Shador.
understand. Yeah, Shador. We do. It's the subject of the video. Um, that is a good point, Jeff. It is fair he won't have Travis Hunter in the NFL. But I really think honestly, like considering the offensive line that he had, yeah, he had Travis Hunter, but he also had a horrendous offensive line holding him back too. So I think it could. I think it could equal out. And if he's got enough of his head on straight to make it to the NFL in the first place, then I think he can take advantage of what situation he needs to. And if there's one thing the Browns are good at doing, it's putting talented skill players on their team. They don't really do a whole lot else, right? But they're usually pretty good at keeping talented skill players. So
Yeah,
I mean, Shadur will have weapons to work with.
yeah. And plus he made Jimmy Horn get drafted. Like I remember when I thought, like, because there was barely any hype around Jimmy Horn before the season started, the college football season. A lot of people thought I didn't know who he was, but some people thought he might have went undrafted. Plus, the Hail Mary play against Baylor. If y'all don't remember that play, he didn't throw that ball up to Travis Hunter. He threw that ball up to not even the third receiver. And I mean, yeah, I know Hail Mary's a lot of luck, but we proclaimed Jane Daniels as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he complete Hail Marys. So like good quarterbacks complete Hail Marys sometimes. Aaron Rodgers made a career of Hail Marys, so it's like Hail Marys. You also got to work on them, and Shador Sanders completed one of the beautiful Hail Mary throws. So like sometimes you got to look at Shador Sanders and just give credit where it's due. I understand it's cool now to hate on Shador Sanders, which I don't agree with, but like Shador Sanders, like if the Saints would have drafted Shador Sanders, I would have been on my knees thanking Mickey Loomis. But obviously they did the dumb thing. But yeah, you can tell Thomas that I don't know what he's talking about, but yeah, Shador
Well,
Sanders,
to
I feel
to
like
be
is
fair, to be fair, Thomas was, pretty far down on Shedeur Sanders before it was cool to hate Shedeur Sanders. So, you know, he's not just on the bandwagon. He already felt that way.
Still, it's like, man, Shedeur Sanders, he reminds me of that guy that is so rich that he gets bullied because you think that he's going to brag about how much money he got. That's literally the exact same thing. It's like he has a famous
Right.
dad, and the dad always, helps with the brand. I'm pretty sure Shiloh said something about his dad being his agent or whatever, and being a bad one. And then Shedeur Sanders got like so hyped up from his father, whether that was at Jackson State or Colorado. And then it got to a point where Shedeur, it's not like a LeBron James and Bronny situation where we know Bronny's hot dookie. Look, but Shedeur is not like that. Like Shedeur actually had talent. It's not like he's just living off of his dad's name. He's literally living off the talent that he has. And whether that's the talent that he possessed from his father, like from the football aspect, it's like, okay, but at the end of the day, Shedeur Sanders he didn't have the best team in Colorado. Like Colorado was unranked going into the year. And then I don't know if they ended ranked, but I know they were ranked at one point. You know why? Because Shedeur Sanders was making a name for himself. Like I understand a lot of people may not feel that way, but I feel like those people are on something because Shedeur Sanders, like I don't know, maybe he did have bad interviews, but I don't believe none of that.
Well, I think it's quite possible that he really genuinely did have some bad interviews, but I don't know, to go from being consistently considered to be a potential top 2 draft pick to down to the 5th round because you had some bad interviews, that it again in my opinion, what's really going on there is the NFL owners generally don't like players who are like really like loud and bombastic and stuff like that, and they'll put up with it when they have to, but when they get an opportunity to demonize a guy for it, they'll take it and run with it. And he's got a gigantic target on his back because his dad is Deion Sanders. So it's like if he's not like a model fucking citizen, then they're going to basically use him as an example of like nepotism's bad, and nepotism is bad. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, to demonize a guy just because he has a famous dad, I think is kind of taking it too far in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I just don't think I just think sometimes, like Shedeur Sanders, can he come off as, cocky? Sure, he can. But
What
at the same
NFL
time,
player is not at least kind of cocky? Except Joe Burrow.
That's what I'm saying.
And even Joe Burrow's kind of cocky.
Yeah, like would you rather like a nonchalant guy, like a guy that's like, okay, I'm gonna go where the wind takes me, like what?
Like Josh Rosen?
Yeah, like Josh Rosen.
To bring it back full circle.
Nah, Josh Rosen had the ultimate cockiness. But it's like
but after the fact, he didn't though. I think he just kept.
Yeah, after he bounced around from team to team, I'm pretty sure he was in Atlanta, Miami, Cleveland, and he was everywhere. But like today, Shedeur Sanders is like he wasn't. He did strike some people as cocky, but for me, I felt like his attitude, it wasn't like it's not like he was going into the interview saying how your team sucks and your coach is dumb, and if you don't draft me, then you're the dumbest person that ever exists. I don't get that vibe with Shedeur. I never did. Even when people were saying he was cocky, I was like, I don't really view it as cockiness. I view it as faith, because you want players to believe in themselves. You don't want to draft a guy in whatever part of the draft, and they don't have faith in themselves. That's how you become bust, because you don't got faith in yourself, man. So like Shedeur Sanders is not the victim here. All right, it's all boom. So I feel sympathy for Shedeur. It's like,
so he is the victim.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I got my words backwards. It's like,
okay,
like I was trying to say that like the NFL, right? The NFL is not the victim here. because like the NFL keeps pushing Shador down, and it's like, come on, man. Like Shador ain't got nothing to nobody.
Yeah, I believe some of the things that have come out about him, but most of the things that have come out about him either A, sound like they're embellished for the sake of tearing down the guy, or B, is about the normal level of cockiness I expect from an NFL player. Because I'm like, to be completely honest with you, you can't make it to the NFL without at least being a little cocky. Like, you have to believe in yourself to be able to push yourself that hard to have that level of achievement to make it to the NFL in the first place. You're not going to do that if you're just the most humble person on the planet, because the most humble person on the planet wouldn't put themselves in the position to be potentially in the NFL in the first place.
Yeah, I just
They wouldn't.
look, and
They
I
wouldn't.
don't get me
They
wrong.
may or may not believe they're capable of it, but if they're that damn humble, then they're not going to then they're not going to believe that they're going to, oh, I probably couldn't do that. So then, like, and maybe they deep down do, but if there's even like a modicum of doubt in your mind, then you're going to fail. That's honestly that's why a lot of like guys end up being busts in the NFL. It's not because they're untalented. It's not because they're like Johnny Manziel partying all the time. It's not because of this, that, and the other. It's because they completely lose confidence in themselves because they hit some adversity and they're not able to overcome it because they get so they start questioning themselves and then they aren't able to really focus on being you have to be hyper focused on being the best to be in the NFL. And not everybody's going to be the best, but you have to be hyper focused on being the best to be in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I believe in humbleness too, and I think some players do take cockiness like a little bit too far. Like there is
Oh yeah.
cockiness, but then there's a straight like what's the word I'm trying to look for? What's the word where it's like, hold on, let me think real quick. Hold on. Like insufferable. That's what I'm trying to look for. Like, there's a difference between like cocky to being insufferable, to where it's like you can't even stand to even hear the guy talk because every time he talks, it's always about him, and him. That's what made Drew Brees so great, for example. Like, if Drew Brees, like if Drew Brees could have the most perfect game in the NFL, and he will still say, "I gotta find a way to get better. I gotta find a way for my teammates, to uplift my teammates, so we can all be on the same page." That's what made Drew Brees great. Drew Brees didn't have all the physical attributes, but he had the awareness, he had the mental, and he obviously, he had football talent. That's why he was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But Drew Brees, what also made him great is that he was a team player. He wasn't like he wasn't so cocky, all right. But like I said, there's a difference from being cocky to being insufferable, all right. Like, and I think Shador, he's a little bit cocky, but he's not insufferable.
Well, that's what people are accusing him of being, though. So, I mean, I get technically
Which
he
I don't
could
think.
be. We're not in any of those meetings. It to me it feels like them
Yeah,
trying to tear down the guy's character to make a point. I honestly I
yeah,
don't like the fact that I think that the NFL owners don't like the fact that Deion Sanders is basically doing such a good job of, or maybe a bad job, you could argue, of like of marketing him and putting him out there. I think I think basically what they're doing is they're trying to make sure that you don't have a like a I forget his name, the like Lamelo Ball's older brother.
Lonzo.
Was his name? Yeah, Lonzo. They're trying. The NFL doesn't want like a Lonzo Ball type of situation, or like like
Lonzo, dude.
Odell Beckham and his dad. Like they don't want like these like parents to just like completely like take over the news in the NFL and like they want the NFL to be about the NFL teams, not about the personalities of the players. And the more you see players who are just like all about their personality, the more you see teams and like the media and stuff try to tear them down. And
Yeah, I don't like
it's
that.
and
It's like,
like a lot of and teams will take flyers on guys like that, like the Browns. who also took flyer on Johnny Manziel, who, but at the same time, for the most part, a lot of these owners basically just try to tear these guys down. And in a lot of cases, it might be warranted, but it also kind of seems like in a lot of cases that the NFL owners are basically just like, these fucking old rich white guys who just want the players to stay in their place.
Yeah,
and
for
it's
example,
really
like Michael
annoying.
Thomas, like for example, Michael Thomas, he was insufferable. All right,
Yeah.
like it got to a point where I didn't even want him on the team. But a guy like for example, like Joe Burrow, he's cocky. Don't get me wrong, but he's like he knows when it's enough. Like he's not jabbing at players every single game. He's not saying, "Oh, you'll be lucky to be on a roster in 5 years." Like
Yeah, but
he's not
he's
saying
also not
that.
he's also not committing the cardinal sin of NFL owners of bringing a ton of attention specifically to himself. Because every time Joe Burrow brings attention to himself, it's really bringing attention to the team. Because Joe Burrow can come off as cocky, and to some extent, I think Joe Burrow has a little bit of cockiness in him. But it comes like a lot of what Joe Burrow is it comes from a very humble place, and it comes from a very team focused centric place, and that's what the NFL owners are fine with that. Joe Burrow has a good personality, but it's not a huge personality, and like that's what they want. Like, was it the Saints owner who said that you don't want the inmates running the prison one time?
What did McKinnon say?
Was it? I swear I thought that was who was that said that we don't want the inmates running the prison.
Well, the Saints owner.
Yeah,
So who would that have been Tom Benson before he died, or was it that been
I think it was
Benson?
Tom Benson. Yeah.
Tom. What do you? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't around when Tom Benson was here.
No,
Well,
I'm sorry.
Falcons.
That was Bob McNair, the Texans owner, who said that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't even know because I don't think I watched the Saints when Tom Benson was owning. So.
Yeah, but I thought it was. I think Tom Benson might have done something relatively similar, but it was when they were like having some issues with NFL players like kneeling for the national anthem, and Bob McNair basically came out and said like you can't just like let the players basically what he was saying is you can't let the players just decide what we're doing, but the way he said it was we can't have the inmates running the prison, and it shows that like that elitist fucking attitude that the NFL owners have, and it's like you notice like half the time when they make decisions and rule changes and stuff like that, it's not actually for the good of the game. It's for the good of their perception of the game. They want this idea like with the taunting rules. They want to have this like this picture perfect idea they have of like these nice little like 1950s fucking NFL players run around acting like saying yes sir, no sir, and thank you, please may I have another, and that's just not what humans do. Like they're these completely detached friggin' old rich white guys who they get on my nerves a lot.
Yeah, I feel it. I absolutely do. Like, sometimes you just gotta deal with the pain, even if the pain drives you insane.
Yeah, well, I'm a Bengals fan, and if there's a poster child for detached old white people, it's the Bengals ownership. So I'm kind of up shit creek without a paddle on that one.
Bro, I made my name basically. Bro, for those of you that don't know, the reason I'm called Hurricane Mike is because every time the Saints lose, I feel like I'm having a stroke.
Your audio sounds like you're having a stroke.
Okay.
But no, I mean seriously, your mic just keeps cutting out half the time. I think it might be your internet.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm on the YouTube feed. It's kind of blurry. Really.
Well, yeah, that's because it's resetting. But I mean, if you like listen to the audio, you hear every once in a while your audio will T-pain a little bit. You'll be talking to me like yeah, and the Saints.
I mean, it was raining earlier, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. So.
I doubt it, but we're getting off track at this point. It's about time to wrap the episode up anyway, I think.
Yeah, when we start talking about nonsense, that's how you know we've been on for a while.
Yeah, I think that's probably about our cue to hop off. But you got anybody else you want to say was a big draft steal before we head out of here?
Emory Jones.
Emory Jones. All right. Who's Emory Jones?
Dolphins tackle, LSU, goes to the Ravens in the 3rd round.
I hate the Ravens. I really do. I also I want to put this out here there. First of all, by the way, Will Johnson. Let's just say that like straight up. But like I want to put this out there because I've obviously said some critical things about him, but I also do recognize his talent. So I want to put it out there that it could be the case that Mike Green could end up being a really big steal for the Ravens. Who really knows? Talent wise, that's a massive steal to get him at 59 and fuck the Ravens. Yeah. Again, I'm just going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it until people listen to me. Fuck the Ravens.
I think people that watch the show is forced to listen to you say that.
Do what?
People that watch this show, that voluntarily watch the show, are forced to hear you say that anyway. So.
They're not forced. They watch the show voluntarily.
That's what I'm saying.
They know. Like, no, I'm saying
watching the show when you say that, then they have no choice but to listen.
But I'm saying they know what this is. They signed up for this. You know what you're doing by watching the show. Please continue watching the show, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. But anyway, on that note, we're gonna head out because it's like 11:30 here, and I would like to let the people in my house get some sleep. So I will leave y'all as always with a Who Dey.